Hey folks, welcome back. I'm your host, R.R. Slugger, and today I wanted to regale you with my top 5 favorite LEGO sets. It's actually kind of hard to believe that I haven't made a video like this already. Before we dive into the list itself, here's a bit of what to expect. Firstly, I'm one of those folks that sees a distinction between favorite and best. Favorite to me implies a lot more subjectivity than best, and that's exactly how I intend to use the term today. This list is just one slug's opinion, and I don't think it really opens anything up to debate. Like, is anyone out there actually going to try to convince me that my favorite LEGO set isn't actually my favorite LEGO set? I guess stranger things have happened in the YouTube comments section. In short, if a set ranks higher than another on the list, it doesn't mean it's a better set, only that I like it more. Does that make sense? To make things more interesting, I'm restricting myself to only choosing one set from any given theme or sub-theme. This means that, no, I'm not just gonna list 5 Rock Raider sets one after the other. I want to showcase a bit more variety here today. One final point before we begin. I've spoken about this before, but I chafe against the argument that I so often see of, you only like this because of nostalgia. Almost always it comes off as a baseless assumption that pretends to know the speaker better than they know themselves. However, in this instance, it's totally accurate. Most of my picks today are seen through a rose-tinted lens of the past. If you're expecting to find any LEGO sets here that came out in the last 20 years, you'll be disappointed. I'm actually really curious if anyone can guess my top 5, so if you'd like to try, by all means, pause the video and pop it down in the comments. You could also list your own top 5 if you're up for it. Anyways, let's begin. Number 5. There were a lot of potential options for the number 5 spot, and I'm still not entirely sure I settled on the right one. Regardless, here are a few honorary mentions that nearly made it onto my list. 7477 T1 Typhoon. What a mammoth of a set. Very few LEGO sets saw more play than this one in my house growing up. I'd show you pictures of my copy, but it's buried away in a bin somewhere, likely in shambles. Plus, that set is way too big for my photography rig. 7418 Scorpion Palace. While certainly not the biggest LEGO Adventurers outing, this set sparked a passion for Indian culture and architecture within a young R.R. Slugger. It had a truly unforgettable impact on my life growing up. 8521 Flare. A Technic set, I know! Well, Flare and I go way back, and there were many days spent flying around the basement looking for discs in the dark. This is simply some of the best that Throwbots had to offer. 8531 Pohatu. Not only does Pohatu have the coolest mask design of the original Toa, he also has the best play feature and a boulder contained within to utilize it. I know I'm sometimes seen as a Bionicle hater, but it really was an important theme for me, at least until it became total trash. All of these sets are great, but my number 5 pick goes to 6721 Mosasaurus. This is surely to come as a surprise to a lot of folks out there, but simply put, I played with this set more than any other. It was a blast building all sorts of monstrous creatures to attack my minifigures with. Hailing from 2001, these brilliant semi-brick built beauties relied on a new proprietary connection system that allowed for posability and customization. In my opinion, this system has yet to be topped. We'd see these elements get reused for a few years, but it was basically all over by 2005 and the introduction of a new kind of dinosaur that relied on Galador joints instead. The same ones we use today, in fact. While I love the versatility and durability of Galador joints myself, I think something was lost by abandoning the more purpose-built connection system introduced in LEGO Dinosaurs. LEGO's current roster of prehistoric predators are still a lot of fun to play with, but they're simply missing that emphasis on building and rebuilding. These feel more like action figures than anything else. In contrast, the Mosasaurus contains lots of spare pieces for building all sorts of beasts, real or otherwise. Plus, you could easily combine it with any of the other sets within the series. Though short-lived, I think it's safe to say that LEGO Dinosaurs had a strong impact on the kids who played with it, myself included. Number 4. For my number 4 pick, I'm going to go with 1355 Temple of Gloom from LEGO Studios. This simple set encapsulates what the studio's theme was all about: fourth wall breaking fun with cinema-inspired play features. Released in the year 2000, the Temple of Gloom is an obvious nod to a certain adventure movie series, this time starring Johnny Thunder in the lead role. A cameraman stands by to catch all the action on film. The setup is simple. Johnny must navigate the perilous Temple of Gloom and retrieve the gemstone at the end. Then he must escape before the floor caves in around him. As a young slug who didn't have much LEGO at the time, this set was like a shot in the arm with the number of interesting elements contained within. Though the film set itself is quite barren, it contains many props to spruce up the scene. A skull, a scorpion, a bush, and a gemstone all help breathe life into the set, and I'm nearly certain that this was the first set that introduced me to all of them. LEGO really was a world of possibilities, and the parts that facilitated the play function of the set were quickly scuttled and made use of in other builds I would create. LEGO Studios was a hugely impactful theme, not just to me, but to many LEGO enthusiasts across the world. I sincerely doubt the brick filming scene would be remotely the same without the inspiration it instilled in us. In a very real sense, R.R. Slugger might owe his entire existence to this little set from long ago. Number 3. For my next 2 picks, I'm going to be straying away from childhood favorites and venture into the world of amazing LEGO sets that I've come to know as an adult. Set 6755 Sheriff's Lockup is a perfect example of this. Released in 1996 and hailing from the ever-praiseworthy LEGO Western theme, Sheriff's Lockup is, in my opinion, a perfect LEGO set. 2 lawmen face off against a pair of bandits in a frontier town facade. These are the makings of an epic showdown at high noon. The sheriff's office is built upon a raised walkway, just like the true-to-life buildings that inspired it. The slanted roof and wooden siding are constructed using parts no longer in LEGO's library. Too bad though, because they look fantastic here. Within, the sheriff can be found relaxing while keeping an eye on his safe. The jail cell located to the side of the building is where the action really takes place. If the lawmen succeed in capturing one of their quarry, their accomplice may try to break them out. With some combustible encouragement, an entire wall of the cell can be blown loose using an ingenious Technic-springed mechanism located within. Truly spectacular. I sincerely believe that the LEGO Group could not improve upon this set today, even if they tried. Despite releasing nearly 30 years ago, the Sheriff's Lockup is a flawless, LEGOified rendition of the false front architecture common of the era, and it sacrifices nothing to include an incredible play feature as well. Certainly worthy of the top 3 on this list today. Number 2. Well, after gushing over that previous set, where can we go from there? How about somewhere completely different? Also released in 1996, my pick for the number 2 spot is 6492 Hypno Cruiser. I said as much in my dedicated video about this set, but not only does the Hypno Cruiser not deserve the ribbing it receives from folks who judge it on its looks alone, I think it's actually a strong contender for being one of the best sets of 1996, an already rather strong year for LEGO overall. Time Cruisers might just be the most divisive theme on my list here today, but one thing it undeniably excels at is play functions. As you drive the Hypno Cruiser along, the Hypno discs on either side fire up, powering the transcendental reception machine within. This, in turn, activates the roof-mounted propeller, allowing extended journeys through time to occur on land or in the air. This is all achieved by a pair of well-placed rubber bands within the chassis of the vehicle. I never had this set as a kid, but I'm sure the ingenuity of Time Cruisers blew a lot of young minds back in the day. If functionality wasn't good enough, another area where time cruisers excelled was in accessories. Since our time-traveling heroes want to do their best to blend in with their surroundings, they've packed a whole host of disguises within the trailer hitched to the back. A trailer which actually features a wiring hookup for the brake lights. Has any LEGO set done this since? I think the Hypno Cruiser is so good, partially because of how it distills an entire series down into one set. With the Hypno Cruiser alone, you have the entire Time Cruiser's experience contained within a single box. Time-traveling, function-filled, twin-seater vehicle? Check. Dual series leads and their pet monkey? Check. Trailer full of disguises to blend in with their contemporary LEGO themes? Check. With this set, you can go on any adventures your imagination can dream up, and the interconnectivity Time Cruisers encourages with your other LEGO toys is simply inspired. In my opinion, no other theme has embodied the imaginative spark of LEGO better than Time Cruisers. One of a kind, never to be outdone. Number 1. In the lead up to revealing the number 1 pick, I was trying to think of what fake out would be funniest. Should I pick on the Toa Metru again, twice in one video? Or should I pretend that my favorite set is actually some crummy Mars mission outing? No, I think we all know what we're in for. High adventure, deep underground. This is RR Slugger we're talking about. Of course my number 1 pick is going to be something from Rock Raiders, but which one? Well, if you've watched my retrospective series on the theme, you'll already know that the answer is the Granite Grinder. But let's quickly go through the other sets and examine why I didn't choose them. 4910 Hover Scout is one of my favorite sets of this scale, no doubt, but it is a little too small to be significant enough to make it onto this list. 4920 Rapid Rider is in a similar boat. Thank you. 4930 Rock Raiders Crew was my first Rock Raiders set, and I now even own a sealed copy to remain on display. However, it's really just a glorified figure pack. It doesn't even come with a set of instructions. 4950 Loader Dozer boasts what is likely the best play feature in all of Rock Raiders, plus it includes a rock monster. However, this edition comes at the expense of detail within the set itself. I find this one aesthetically lacking. 4970 Chrome Crusher is an absolute beast of a set, but it feels like it's lacking a second minifigure and a proper counterbalance for how front-heavy the design is. 4980 Tunnel Transport is certainly a unique set idea that was thoroughly fleshed out, but I feel that it was still one design iteration away from being truly ready to release. It feels underdeveloped to me. Lastly, 4990 Rock Raiders HQ is a fun set with a lot of modularity, but truth be told, that raised base plate is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and I'm not sure the set even makes the best use of it, honestly. It's no Dragon Fortress, that's for sure. So, my pick for number 1 is 4940 Granite Grinder. This is my favorite set from my favorite series, and I don't think it's any wonder why. Released in 1999 and containing just over 100 pieces, the Granite Grinder occupies that Goldilocks zone of the right LEGO era paired with set size and complexity that I just adore. Carrying on the proud tradition of the swivel walkers that came before it, the Granite Grinder just might be the most impressive and robust iteration of this concept that LEGO ever attempted. The play function is supreme, and its wider than average stance is largely responsible for this. Tool storage on the legs at minifigure accessible height is simply icing on the cake. Then there's the Granite Grinder's giant chrome drill, one of only 2 sets to feature this element. Paired with this cockpit and roll cage design entirely unique to Rock Raiders, there's simply nothing else like it in LEGO's repertoire. The Granite Grinder is impeccable in my eyes. What's something negative I can say about it? That it's one of the only Rock Raider sets not to include an energy crystal and boulder? This is true, but we're talking about 3 pieces here. 3 pieces readily found elsewhere within the series. Other than that, there's really nothing I would change. A flawless example of the complex and one-of-a-kind Rock Raiders aesthetic on display, the Granite Grinder is my favorite LEGO set of all time. But now I'm curious, what's yours? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, everyone. This video was brought to you by the folks who support me during the Summer of Slug, especially those subscribed to my Only Slugs tier. Folks like J.B. Brickman, who, as a fan of both LEGO Pirates and LEGO Western, might appreciate my number 3 pick from this video today. Battery-powered bricks, the absolute king of LEGO Dacta and all things motorized. You really need to check out their channel if you're unfamiliar with it. Alex from Positive Axle, who, as a graphic designer extraordinaire, greatly helped us in creating the logo for Time Drifters this year. Thank you once again. Pyro Crab, whose name reminds me a lot of the new Molten Crustaceans from Heroescape released recently. They're fast becoming some of my favorite figures to play, and you can expect a video about them over on Slugscape after the summer. The Goober, who tells me they're eager to give Heroescape a try. Might I suggest the Molten Crustaceans? Velvet Amiga, who told me they were enamored by a Commodore Amiga at a young age, hence the username. Brandon McGinnis, who is, simply put, the greatest Rock Raiders mock builder, bar none. Their designs and dedication to using period-accurate parts and colors leave me speechless. Maniac for Bricks, who is a true OG LEGO YouTuber. They're an absolute wealth of brick knowledge of everything bizarre. Reaven, who gave me carte blanche when it came to pronouncing their username. Reaven? Reven? What do you think sounds best? DL Delauder. You've heard of our Slugger, but have you heard of DL Delauder? I have a hunch they would talk about adventurer sets on their channel. Cars Simplified, who has the best channel on YouTube for learning about the ins and outs of all things automotive. Thanks for your years of support, Steve. And lastly, Karn, who marooned me for all eternity in the center of a dead planet. Buried alive. Buried alive. Karn! Karn! These folks and many more deserve our thanks for making the Summer of Slug a reality. If you'd like to pitch in and show your support, the links are in the video description. I've been your host, RR Slugger, and I'll see you next time for another video.